Hi there. I'm just meeting on here with Adam to talk about the role of touch in yoga and in particular self-assisting as a new way of looking at how we can move our body in the space with a little bit more autonomy. So I'm just waiting for Adam to join. Hi Martha. Do you know what's so funny is I don't think I put any weird settings on my phone. I try and look kind of like as wrinkly as I am. But what's funny is that I'm somehow a bit orange. Apart from a bit of lipstick on, I haven't painted my face orange this morning. So sorry about that. I think I've got some funny phone setting on that I don't know about. Let us know through this discussion if you have any questions about self-massage and self-assist. Adam's just here now, so I'm just going to let him in. Hi, Adam.
Hello, we're here.
We're here. I'm not sure why I haven't been a bit orange.
You put on the tan setting.
I. Can you
I
teach me?
don't know.
So Adam being in my life, honestly, he's such a helpful person to have in my life. He teaches me things about settings
I
and
don't know what. No, you look fine. You look totally normal on my screen. We're just gonna go with it.
how you doing?
I'm very well. I'm happy
Good.
to chat again. We had
Yeah.
so much fun last time.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? It was good. Um, and yeah, just to kind of give people a bit of context about what this is about. This is about working with touch in your yoga practice. So if you're someone who's teaching and used to adjusting, obviously that's not possible at the
Hmm.
moment. But also if you're a keen practitioner and you're someone that likes to really organize your body and understand where it is in space and refine those physical alignment in order to feel perhaps deeper breath and things like that, how self-touch can play a role in that.
Yeah, because we've been thinking about this a lot because of well, we have our upcoming immersion. So that's our like shout out and plug our immersion that starts this weekend, which you can I think in all of our bios you can find info. But we've been thinking about touch and adjustment, obviously because we can't touch people right now, but we want to teach in a way that helps people find their own like ownership of their own body and ownership of their own practice. So we've been questioning this sort of tradition of a lot of like strong, a little bit invasive adjustment. I don't know, but maybe we can think like Naomi, like in your practice, like when you were just student, how much were teachers getting on you and like grabbing and pulling things?
Oh, I mean, it's amazing to see how far we've come actually in the yoga community, and it for all that we're shining a light on what isn't good at the moment and what's difficult in the yoga community. I think it's worth saying we've come a long way in this respect. So yeah, when I was first practicing, the adjustments were incredibly strong. There was very little ownership of what I was doing. I come from a professional dance background, so have a fair amount of flexibility. And walking into a yoga space, I think yoga teachers just assumed that I could do certain things, but I didn't have the strength to hold myself in Marishasana D, and I didn't have the strength to hold myself in lots of other poses that I was kind of pulled up into. And I don't mean to disrespect different styles of yoga practice because I think there is space for everything. But yeah, some of the adjustments I had were pretty edgy. I mean, to give you an idea, I had Bikram Chowdhury standing on my hip bones. And I was, age 21 in a room of 300 people in camel pose. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting this guy to just literally jump on my hip bones, twice the weight as me.
Oh.
Yeah, it was kind of frightening, and all in the name of yoga. So I think we have come a long way. I think we have come a long way. And it's not to say, just to go back to that point of, it's not to disrespect other styles of yoga practice, because I think with many styles, the intention is good, not necessarily Bikram, but that's a whole other conversation. But with many other styles, the intention is good. So they're not meaning to bring you any harm, but perhaps there's just a lack of thought about where the practitioner is in that space. It's more about what the teacher is doing to
Yeah, I
you.
mean, because as me as student, I mean, I'm still pretty not flexible for a yoga person, but when I started, right, people would come and like see my non-compliant hamstrings and just pull, like grab some part of me
Yeah,
and pull or push.
yeah,
And sometimes actually, that felt really good.
yes,
But then it was a sort of fine line between that feeling really good and then it being bad.
mm,
But what was lost in that, for me at least, was like my participation. I was just getting just pulled in some shape,
mm,
and what that said to me was that the pose was the important thing,
yes,
and making the shape was the important thing.
yes.
Not no matter how where I ended up in the end, the process wasn't that important.
Mm.
But this, I should say this. We're talking about bad adjustments. I think there are also
Yeah, we're going to
there's,
get to some good ones. There's incredible ones out there,
yeah,
and off after receiving some pretty heated adjustments, and struggling with knowing where to place myself in that, but also knowing that I wanted to have the technique to touch bodies. And this, was going back when it was more popular to touch bodies. I think it was something that students crave, and
yeah.
for all different kinds of reasons. So I did a Thai massage course, and I learned about the Sen lines, and I understood just these different lines of energy mapping onto the body, and how I could kind of work with body and weight and bodies that were bigger than mine. And just to be able to do that skillfully, I think really set me up to then decide what to do and what not to do. So I think that's also part of this conversation. It's like when to kind of intervene and when not to. But what we're really excited about is how you can give yourself that experience, but also the pleasure that you're craving when you're seeking an adjustment. Because I know for me, like I would sit there in Paschimottanasana and kind of think, oh, are they going to lie on my
Are they
back
coming?
today? Are they coming? And hear the little
Yeah,
foot.
yeah. The squeak in the wood
Oh
floor,
yeah, yeah, and
and then they
and
go to the person next to you, and you're pissed
yeah,
off.
and just disappointed, just so
Yeah,
disappointed. And is that important in your yoga practice? Is
yeah.
is
Well, I think that's really interesting, especially that you said, that you studied massage, because for me it wasn't the Paschimottanasana, it was the Shavasana adjustment that I would crave. I'm like, are they coming with the essential oils? Or are they going to massage my brow? I'm like waiting for it, and it doesn't come. But I think, in that instance, should I have just gone to get a massage? Should I have gone to get a massage? I mean, am I craving something different? We always had a comment, and I don't know how to look at it. So someone,
yeah,
I can't say the name. I use muscle energy techniques for both myself and the subject to work with their limitations without creating too much discomfort. So it's good. Like, so, let's talk about like because that's interesting that she brings that up. It's like what actually makes a good assist. Um, and I think like if you are a specialist that knows what's going on in the body, you have some information, but not all of it to be able to assess if providing leverage for someone's practice is going to be helpful or not. But I think you have to really have an environment of consent, number one, but then dialogue and trust. So it has to be like have to be communicating teacher and student together about, is this working? Is this helpful? And I think that's actually really rare. So I'm glad that the person who commented did has a structure. But I think it's really rare that there is a consent and dialogue. I mean, how many times has someone asked you, "Can I give you an assist?" And then as they're doing it, so want a lot of information about, is this enough? Is this too much? And that never happened to me.
And I know that there were some studios that were trying to create a kind of safe space around this, so consent cards with assisting and things. But I think that could be really problematic too, because then if you're the person saying, "I don't want to be touched,"
Yeah, it's
that
awkward.
is awkward.
Awkward.
It's really awkward. And then also it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, but I don't want to not be touched ever."
Yeah.
It's like these binary statements that we're sort of making, at the beginning of a class, and that's not what we come to yoga for. It's to be kind of the whole of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
so we are really excited about enabling the practitioner to do it themselves, right? That's what's really exciting with self-assisting, that you can place your hands on your body and you are getting feedback from your body. And that's the important feedback. It's not really about, as lovely as a massage is, it's about what's coming from the body up, that wisdom, that 80% of,
Yeah.
of vagal communication coming up from bottom up rather than top down. Because of
And
course,
yeah, go on. Go on.
no, but of course, if somebody's coming into your body, they have a motive in mind. They're kind of like, I want to help. It's probably well intentioned. I want to help guide you into this alignment. And they don't know your 40 years of, or 20 years or 75 years worth of stuff that you're contending with in the space, whereas you do. And so you put your hand on your body and all the sensory awareness is in play then, and you're able to tune into the feeling sense of it. I love what Jill Miller says when she says, "I thinking in feels,"
Yeah, my
which
body thinks and feels.
so good, like, and it's that. And she talks a lot about kind of muscle tone varying depending on the state of your mind. And of course, if I touch your body, but from the outside, your body, you seem like you're fit and you're well, but I don't know that you've just had this really big life thing happen, and your tissues are contracted. You're hydrated. You're dehydrated. Your body is not how I'm perceiving it. You look like you're bright,
Yeah.
shiny, doing brilliantly, but from the inside, it's something different. So it's a way that you can meet yourself with tenderness.
Yeah, I think no matter how much of a specialist you are as a yoga teacher, no matter how empathic you think you are or you actually are, you do not know enough to guide someone's yoga practice into the depths and the frontiers of it. Only they do. But that's why we're excited, and really it's like huge in both of our teaching, and has been for a few years, of just basically doing everything we would have done with our own hands. We just say, "Student, instead of me grabbing your thigh,
Yeah.
instead of me grabbing your ribs, instead of me grabbing your arm, you do it your own damn self."
Yeah.
And you know what? You may not get as much leverage or pull, but you're in charge of your own experience, and you're going to feel every little bitty bit of it. And that, to me, is what is like massively important. That the student owns their own practice. The student owns the results of the process and the experience and the shape and the benefit, that they own it. They made it happen. They don't feel beholden or addicted to the teacher that made that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that by self-assist, we just mean you grab your own arm and move, or maybe you grab your own body and feel. Like anytime my teacher could come onto me and put hands on my back for me to breathe into, like imaginary hands can do that too, and students' own hands can do that. Or having a little charging break.
Little battery issue, just minor battery issue. I've got into this habit of turning my phone off to have better boundaries with myself, but then when I put it on, I realize there's no juice.
You haven't charged it.
So I'm sorry about my sound quality now. But yeah, I'm glad you said you just describe that as like grabbing, because I'm kind of glad you said that, because it invites a conversation about different kinds of touch and different and different intentions within touch. So of course, if you're in, we were talking about Paschimottanasana or Dandasana, you're just seated poses with your legs straight in front of you. You can grab your thighs, you can roll them in, and that will, you know, widen your sit bones, and you've given yourself that alignment. You felt the femur bone, the key in the door turning in, and you've done that yourself. You've taken yourself into the depth that feels good for you before you forward fold. And then there's different kinds of touch. So for instance, in my class this morning, we were doing a lot of work from the belly out. So feeling into our belly, giving our belly a massage. So you could do that with your awareness if touching your tummy doesn't feel good. You could do that with a pillow. You could rest a pillow over your tummy and just feel the pillow rising and falling.
Yeah.
Or you could massage, which is what we were doing, and we were taking circular motions underneath the ribs, a subdiaphragmatic massage. But then if you're doing that, if you're actually just feeling into your belly and allowing your diaphragm to move more freely, how then you can really express yourself out from that place. So it gives you more creativity, I think, in the way that you teach and in the way that you practice. Certainly for me, putting my hands on my body gives me different little insights and openings into where I can then move from, and I love that. So for instance, if you're teaching, working from your belly, and you start with this soft belly and you're breathing into your belly, then you can feel different kinds of tone in the abdomen throughout the class. You can work with isometrics, pressing your palms together to feel more tone in the center and moving from that place of strength. So it just gives you, I think, a nice way to sequence that isn't peak posture sequencing as well. It gives you...
Yeah, and this is like inside out. I talked about body ownership before, which may sound like a really intense phrase, but what I really mean is just that you can feel where your body is in space, and you can feel the internal experience of your body. And we might call that embodiment. But many people do not have that. And I mean that seriously, because they can test these sorts of things in clinical settings. If people can actually feel their own body and not get confused by if their arm is replaced by a rubber arm. People get easily confused about what is actually their body and what is a rubber arm. And probably most people listening right now will get confused, unfortunately. So me as yoga teacher, I want to teach people to feel their own body and to know what the internal sensations of their body is. So if I have that in mind, that doesn't really gel with me grabbing or whatever someone's body and moving it like it's a toy or a puppet. It gels more with them, even if they don't go as far, sort of finding their own way with their own hands and their own touch. So I think body ownership is really, really important, but it also shifts adversarial relationships with the body, because that is, at least, it's on my radar, and what I care about is that people, when they touch their belly, aren't thinking, how fat am I? How gross am I? Or whatever it is. Or same thing with their arms or their legs or their bum, that they touch and they think, that's my body, I'm taking care of it, not this body is disappointing me. So I want to shift that relationship. And I think the only way we shift that relationship is through engaging with our own bodies and touch, either with hands or with different massage tools. And it's just what I care about as a yoga teacher, is this sort of compassionate, self-compassionate embodiment.
Yeah, that's really important. And that care really comes through in your teaching. And you can feel as well, Adam, when you teach it, that you've been on a journey with this, of course.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have touched my stomach and think, I want to lose weight here.
Yeah.
And that's pretty common. Or I touch my legs and think, why aren't you flexible? Or whatever it is. And that's just that constant dialogue. But that's not unique to me. That's just how we have sort of set up what we value in society. I like that Align London has said, I ask my clients to thank their bodies for bringing them this far. Like if you could walk onto your mat, you're doing all right. If you're breathing, you're doing all right. So it's like have gratitude for your own body. It's so important. So it's good that you're teaching that.
And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because it takes tremendous courage to show up enough. Like it takes tremendous courage to just like actually even close your eyes and look inside your body. There's quite a lot in there. And then let alone place your hands on areas that, yeah, you might have some discomfort or be working with some old stuff that's. So yeah, it's a way that we can also really, we can work to the level that is right for our bodies in the moment. And I think that's really key, that we're not pushing. It's about you taking yourself and guiding you through. For me, I love alignment. I love alignment. I mean, I feel like when I'm in Trikonasana, nothing makes me, I mean, there are other things that make me happy, like, my
Children.
children are quite nice. Um,
Children.
but Trikonasana,
Recognize.
nothing. What a statement. But yeah, feeling the alignment that feels right for my body, and then it's as if I can feel every cell in my body breathing in that moment. I
Yeah.
can really feel that I'm animated, that I'm here, I'm alive. It feels fun. Like for me, it feels fun. So if we're in triangle pose, just as an example, so this all doesn't sound really abstract, it's you that has your hand on your back hip. It's you that's deciding how much to turn your toes in.
Grabbing a rib cage and
Yeah, it's you
peeling it
that's,
open.
yeah, exactly. And, it's you that's turning and sliding your hand across your ribs. And it's you that's exploring the movement of your neck, your cervical spine. Where feels good for you? Is it looking up at your hand? For me, it's not. It's looking down. And then once you're in it, once you found your alignment, then you breathe into the full shape.
Yeah.
So it's kind, I think it's really exciting, this, to put your hands on your body and guide yourself through. And in the course, we're talking about different kinds of touch, aren't we? And I'm just.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's different. I mean, it's like compassionate touch number one, but I put it in a post yesterday, I think. But you can, as teacher, you can just think, what am I usually doing with my hands on students, or misdoing now that I can't touch anybody, and then just either ask them to do it themselves, and it'll probably work. But here's the one that you may not think works, but I think works really well. Is I say as teacher, all right, I can't touch any of you. You're through a computer, but imagine
Mm.
I'm behind every single one of you, and I've grabbed your pelvis. You're in down dog, and I'm pushing it up and back. And you know what? Imaginary hands.
Yeah,
They really, really work.
yeah,
Like just bringing awareness to a certain region and initiating that action. Somehow it really, really works. So
yeah.
it's something to play with, which we'll teach more on the course and talk
Mm.
about, but I think it's worth experimenting with.
I did Adam's class on Monday, and he did this lovely supporting of the skull with your hands just at the base of the skull, and letting the hands really take the weight of your head, and then taking the hands away. So there's an expectation of some muscular effort now around the neck, and then from there reaching your arms up. So you're in a back bend, but you have this memory of support.
Yeah.
Again, like thinking of it not just as like a physical shape, but what does it mean when we're actually letting our head really sink into our hands? How does that feel? And then as you reach your arms up and as you open up the front of your body, how does that feel? It's quite a vulnerable shape. So to have supportive hands and the memory of those supportive hands, the quality of the touch,
Yeah.
is it warm, is it cold, all these things that you can cue, then for me, it really changed my back bend. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, I mean, it's just but you did it. I didn't do it.
Yeah,
You did it.
yeah,
Can I maybe ask you one more thing? Then we can like
yeah.
finish it up because I think about this a lot. There are certain things I really miss about being able to physically touch or interact with someone. I have thoughts about replacing it. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, is that I miss one, being able to just give physical support to people, such as just helping them balance in something like half moon or handstand. Because I think that that's pretty non-invasive. That's just me there providing physical support, but also moral, emotional support. Um, and I think there's something we miss, like on a human level, without touch. I think there's something in the right environment, the right trusting, consensual environment of a yoga class,
Mm,
touch and that moment with a person can be really powerful both ways.
mm.
But as we said, there are liabilities. Um, but I mean, what do you think about the loss of that moment? And like what do you do to try to like replace that need for connection and like witnessing and being present with?
It's a good question because it's not having your students touching your somebody you're working with, like literally holding
Yeah,
a hand or whatever it might be. There's an exchange and there's a co-regulation happening within our nervous systems. We're doing it together. And that's something we're going to talk about too. But whereas, yeah, particularly on screen, it can be, yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of teachers out there who are probably really missing that contact. It's as much about them as it is about the student.
mhm.
I feel like over the many months that we've been doing this now, that there has been a shift, and I think the way to kind of shift that is to teach more self touch and self massage, and to ask more questions so that when you're asking a question you can see it land in their body. You can see some kind of subtle or big shift, and then you're asking them to respond to that question, whether that's putting their hands on their tummy or a blanket around their back ribs or whatever it is. You're giving them tools to do something. They're choosing what tools to take. So I think that feels now, certainly for me, I'm really enjoying teaching like this now. It feels like a relationship. Like we're in the space, and there's this contract of what is possible and what's not possible. We're here on the screen. But I also find watching my students is really changes that, getting really close to the camera and really sitting with them, guiding them through with just my dialogue rather than me doing the practice.
Yeah.
I find that helpful. But yeah, of course, it's different. It's different. But if you have your hands over your chest and I have my hands over my chest, there's something, right?
Yeah.
You'll feel that. Um, and I think doing that in a group, that's a huge part of compassion. It makes us feel like we're part of something bigger than just, here I am in my space with my hands over my chest. So I don't know if that answers your question. Of course, it's not the same kind of cocktail hit, endorphin hit of like
Yeah.
someone massaging your neck, but I don't think it has to be either for it to
No.
still feel like there's a profound connection.
Because I think all right, I can't touch people, definitely can't now, and maybe I've chosen, even if I could, won't. Um, but yes, like there's something lost if I don't do that. So I just think like, all right, well, what can I replace or just make sure is there so this feels like a human, relational, shared experience. And even when I was still in the classroom, uh, I made an effort to try to walk around, even if
Mm,
I wasn't adjusting, just to see people and witness and be present with them. And even if I didn't have anything substantive to say, just to say, like, good work, Naomi. I see you breathing. I see you're
mm,
in it. Just like, so like there's that like acknowledgement that
mm,
I am present with you, just to say hello to people,
mm,
to have shared moments of humanity where it's just the touch, where we're all looking at the screen, touching our hearts and breathing together. And I actually think in terms of like creating a shared experience, humor really matters.
yeah.
So I will make jokes. I don't hear if people are laughing or not. Sometimes I see some little smirk or smile, but I think I think laughter is really healing and reminds us of our shared experience. So even if it's a stupid joke, I think it's very helpful.
Yeah.
But it's still a work in progress for me to think like, well, I'm not, we can't have this hug and
Mm.
touch, but what can we do? I think about those like the primary school teachers who have the signs at the door that's like the hug or the high five or the dance or something. So we have to figure that out in yoga. Like if we're not going to do the hug,
Yeah.
what is the next best thing to feel
Well, it's
like?
interesting that you talk about primary school teachers because my daughter, she's really good at sleeping, but she does kind of struggle to get to sleep, and there has been a real change in the way that the school is operating. So much more washing hands, and it's less hugging. It's a really warm school, but it's a lot less of that. So what I've been doing at night is I have this heart pillow, which is filled with I think it's like buckwheat or something. And I've been giving her like basically a weighted shavasana, and she
Mhm.
has a little heart, and she puts it over her hips, and then I give her an eye bag, and she puts that over her eyes. And we've just done that, I think, for the last 4 nights, and she's just dropped to sleep so much quicker. And it's just it was a reminder that these things work. They're not just like airy fairy, this is a nice thing to do. It's like these things really work. They stimulate parts of the body that will help you rest more deeply. And so I think another way to get around this lack of touch is to give your students a really good shavasana. And
Oh, always.
always, and like, what does a good shavasana look like? I think, giving them plenty of time, giving them permission to stay, making sure that it feels complete in their body before they get out. They don't need to worry about, saying thank you. This is not a place where they have to say thank you. It's about them just resting, containing, whether they've got a blanket wrapped around their waist or they're lying on their tummy, but you've given them lots of options to feel some cocooning. And I think that's a really nice way to replace some of the touch as well.
Seems hard online, but maybe that's another conversation.
Yeah, yeah. But I think
But
even just in those instructional cues about how you can position your head and how you can position your shoulder blades and how you can take
mhm.
support, how you can elevate your legs if you've been, on your feet all day. Just all of those invitations to experiment, I think, are really key.
Yeah, well, just encouraging people to rest,
Yeah,
which we don't often get.
yeah, yeah. And I think I was just going to say, just in terms of like your classes, like being commercially viable as well, because of course for yoga teachers, you're trying to make a living right now, and my heart goes out to you. It's a tough old time. Um, but one of the things that I would say is if you are teaching if you feel this call, sorry, just pause, from your heart and try out new techniques, your students will come with you for the ride. Like, don't be afraid of experimenting. And I think, of course, be consistent. If your students are always showing up for a certain thing, great. But don't I would say don't be afraid of experimenting with some of this touch stuff and self aligning, um, because your students will like it more than you think. And it feels a bit funny the first time you say these things like put your hands here and massage between your ribs and
Yeah. Sometimes I have people like massage their thigh or bum, and like the first, like on the right side, it's like, did you really say that? And that's like very tentative.
yeah,
Second side, it's just like, like get a room. Like if people are in it. People are craving to just have a nice
yeah,
relationship with their body. But I think we can really give them that, and that's just another interesting frontier of teaching. Maybe just wrap it up to say that if you want to know like more about these techniques, um, I posted about it, sort of the top three with some examples you can see on my blog about how you might incorporate just letting students assist themselves.
mm,
Um, without putting you out of work. Okay, you're still teaching them something.
Exactly.
And then we're going to teach more of these types of techniques, including like the compassionate touch angle and a lot of self massage on the course that starts this weekend. But if you book now, you'll get access to like all the pre-recorded stuff immediately. But we're really excited. We've been working hard on it, and yeah, and then you can join our classes and you grab your own bum and do with it as you please.
Befriend it.
Yes.
Befriend it. Oh, well, it was great to talk to you, Adam.
Yes. Nice to chat with you.
And thank you so much for joining, and thank you for your comments. They've been really interesting and helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to, just ask questions. We'll be here for another minute. Thanks, Celia, for joining. Thanks, Helena.
Nice to see everybody. I like all when the hearts fly too. That fills me up.
I know, when the hearts fly.
I want that on Zoom. That'll be nice. Oh, do we have a question? Oh, the question like went away. How do I get it back?
Students, regardless of Dutch similarly.
Oh, there it is. I do miss the connections just being with the students. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, Charlie.
Yeah.
We're with you. We miss it too, but we can do our best.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not forever. It's not.
Nothing is forever.
Nothing is forever. That's why yoga is our companion, because it teaches us that above everything else, nothing is permanent. So, all right. Well, much love to you. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jackie. Bye.